interesting doing this live stream with the gimbal. Okay, so we're going to start forging. Let's grab, we'll do the dog head. We'll do rounding hammer and cross peen. That should be about all we really need to really work on what we're working on right now. I don't know who all is going to chime in or who all is going to watch because I haven't live streamed in a little while. Let's see here. What's up? How you doing? So it is 40 degrees in my shop right now. It's going to warm up as this piece of, steel warms up in the forge and I start forging. I'll probably start off in my jacket and then kind of go from there. So we've got a piece of 80 CRV2 in the forge. We are going to forge it's called a quenchen kind of profile, kind of like a Tonto, Japanese inspired blade. And then I've got a couple of blacksmith knives that I need to adjust. So I got a couple of these guys that I need to adjust. What's going on, y'all? yeah, we're doing a live today. This is definitely going to be interesting doing the live with the gimbal because it's like having a filming crew, or at least a cameraman. So we're all high tech on here now. Y'all let me know how the live stream looks. We're of course on the new phone and everything like that, so hopefully it's receiving the Wi-Fi way better. It's supposed to. And then of course, like I said, I've got the gimbal, so it's gonna follow me around as I go and do this. We're gonna aim for the camera. Yep. So we're gonna be forging. I've got a chunk of 80 CRV2 in here, a little bar of it. We're gonna just start forging. I'm gonna make like a quenchen-ish thing. I've got an idea for how I want to finish this knife, and yeah, I've got to do that, and then I've got to work on adjusting some of these blacksmith knives. And then later today, I'll be out here working on grinding this a little bit. This should be pretty cool for the Hidden Tang challenge. I haven't done a dagger in a long time, and I figured this would be the perfect time to do that. All right, we are going to get after this. Because the tang on this is pretty simple, I'm gonna go ahead and forge it first, and then we're gonna go into the blade after that. Need to bring it down just a little bit. Still's gonna get cold pretty quick because of the anvil, but it's not gonna be that big of a deal as we go through. It'll warm up pretty quick. Let's see here. Got a few other things that I want to screw with, so probably mess with those. So let me adjust the chat settings so that I get everyone's messages. What's up, Crab? Let's see. What else do I want to throw in the forge? I don't want to have these big gaps between forging. So what else do I want to mess with today? We got a chunk of this right here. So we're going to throw in another piece of steel. This is just a little bar of 80 CRV2 as well. You're at work for now? I'm definitely not at work. Well, for one, I'm off, but it is like raining ice outside right now. But yeah, we'll toss that piece of steel in the forge too and work on it so that it's not something where we have a bunch of downtime. Just putting a little taper on the Tang here, like not a distal taper on the thickness of it, but more just a taper for the handle area. You don't have to go too crazy trying to smooth things back out while you're forging. I know that it's been a while since I've actually done a live stream to teach all that or tell y'all that. But whenever you're forging, you don't need to worry about trying to planish the steel the entire time. You know, I've been watching a lot of people forge during their live streams and all of that. And you see a lot of people, they do this process right here. So we're going to take one of my demo blades, knock some dust off that thing. So demo blade, let's go to here, not rain or snow. Yeah, it's the whole ground is white and the roofs and all that stuff, and it is literally just like raining Dippin' Dots outside. But so like this blade right here, whenever people are forging, I see them do this a lot. Whenever they're going in, they'll do a little bit of forging on like the Tang or whatever, and they'll turn it flat, and they'll flatten it, and they'll forge, and then they'll flatten, and they'll forge, then they'll flatten. And they do that over and over and over again. You can actually get really aggressive and swing and hit the hell out of this thing, and I-beam it a little bit, and then go ahead and flatten it before you put it back in the forge. You don't have to do this every other hit. It's just going to waste a lot of your heat and a lot of your time. It doesn't need to look pretty the entire time you're forging. You just need to get the mass moved to where it needs to be. I'm using the last little bit of the heat that I have in it to planish. I'm going to go ahead and flip it back over and start working on the blade side. That other piece is almost ready to start forging. So now we're going to flip it to the blade side and really start refining that blade profile, messing with it. God, there, like the ice is still ice on the ground. So yeah, it sucks. 5 inches and -1 here. Yeah, I'm in Texas. There's some points in the process where it needs to be nice, but not the whole time. Correct. New Orleans on Tuesday. New Orleans is probably not that bad. It's right now I've got it up to 42 degrees in the shop, but outside the real feel is like -10. So yeah, it's cold. But we're still out here. We're still forging. I'll take 40 degrees over 110 any day. All right. What kind of blade do I want to make here? think I'm gonna turn this into a petty knife. That's what I'm gonna do. Do one of my petty profiles on that one. $14 feels like one, yeah, because it's nice and sunny. What's up, Mark? D-Max Custom. That's one of the guys on the podcast that I do. Oh, V-Max, Mr. Mark. So, what do you think about the gimbal there? Lived in Laredo, Texas in the 80s. I feel like in the 80s it wasn't near as bad. It's like there was times in the 80s here where it would be like December, like a Christmas day. We'd be outside in shorts and tank tops and stuff. And then we've had a few cold days and stuff like that, but it really wasn't that crazy. Okay, so quenchen has a pretty fine tip on there. So we need to take this and start knocking it down. So you can planish whenever you start really compressing. And like right now, I really just want to take this and pull it into a point. So I am going to planish. You can see where this little different color here, that's where it started I-beaming, and I smashed that back down in. So quenchens have a pretty fine tip to them. So we're going to have to bring that down quite a bit. And with this, it's just hit it nice and hard and then flatten it. So this steel is an 1/8 inch thick. So this is not some really thick steel here. So I do have to be careful so I don't taco the hell out of it. Figure out roughly where I want the handle to be. How long I want my blade. Create my little notch right here. That's going to be Tang blade. You can see how far that blade comes up into here. So now we pull the go ahead and start compressing that Tang down. Eric, finally get a chance to talk to you. How you been, man? Following for a long time. Hey, awesome to have you here. That's what he said. Gimbal, Jenna has tracks. Yeah, it's awesome. So having this, you know, I've needed to have an extra pair of hands or a camera person for a while now. And having this plus the mic, so I can walk over there, it follows me, does all that stuff. It's so nice. Definitely probably should have had it a while back. Keep compressing this tip down. Flatten. Come from the back side here. So what happens is we start bringing that tip down. We're hammering on this side. This side's on the anvil. So if you don't want to risk hurting your anvil by accidentally doing a mishit and having your hammer come off the end, you can either hang this off the edge, or you could flip it and start forging on the back side, and you will slowly bring that tip to center. Not slowly, in like one heat. Just makes your life a little bit easier if you're not super comfortable with your hammer blows or strikes or anything like that. So on this one, we have that big section right there. We need to come over with our rounding hammer, hang it off the edge of the horn just a little bit. So what that's going to do is that's going to give us a little mushroom cap here. So by we put it on the horn is so that that round section can come here, the round side of our rounding hammer could come here, and what it does is it pushes the center steel up and out. Boop. So that then we can compress it down and not get the fish lips. Whenever you're forging, the part that you're touching on the anvil and the part that's touching your hammer is going to be what extends the fastest if you're on the flat side. Whenever you do this, it's going to compress on these two sides and push the center steel out. You only need to do that for like maybe a heat, and you'll get yourself plenty of space to work with there. So now, shift that center of that tip, go back to the other side, other side, now you have yourself a point. We're going to heat that back up, and then we're going to start really working on the profile of this. Switch back to the dog head. If you don't know what a dog head hammer is, it looks like this right here. It's got most of the mass to one side. Okay. Thank you. Decon Blaze, that's cool. So what is everybody working on right now? What do y'all got going? Of course, a lot of us are just trying to keep warm. Now, one of the things that I'm doing not out here is I have a roast in the crock pot, so that's happening. I'm looking forward to being able to chow down on that. Now, I will tell y'all this, something to think about if you're going to be forging inside your shop with all your doors and windows closed, you need to have ventilation. I've got a big vent fan that actually vents out heat during the summer, and then gases that come out of your forge during the winter. You don't want to be forging inside with all your doors shut, because that right there will hurt you bad. You don't want to be, breathing in all that gas. So, have good ventilation. I've got my fan going. I've got it going on like speed 3 out of 10. So, it's not really sucking out too much heat, but it is pumping out the gas. Okay. Like I said, all we need to do is do this one more time on the horn. Mushroom that out. Then we can come in, hit it flat. Bring that down quite a bit. That's about all we need. on the height of that Tang at this point right now. Now you might be wondering why I did that before doing the actual transition like I normally do. Like this, typically. We put this on the anvil right here, forge here, and forge this heel past the side of the anvil. And typically we do that, and then we do the back section. But with the way that this handle's profiled, kind of like a coffin shape, it's actually nice to be able to get that mass at the very end compressed down before you thin out the section that's going to be the finger choil. So we get that mass down and out away so that whenever I start pushing into the finger choil area, it's going to make it a lot easier when I'm moving the mass, because it gets that back section just out of the way and it doesn't really mess with the finger choil area near as much where I thin out that steel. So it's just something to think about there. You know, we develop our process as we go. And I've been developing this for years now, so I'm still in the learning process. Even though I teach a lot of people how to do this, we never stop learning. At least we shouldn't. We just start tapering that out. Not super worried about it bowing out as much as it is right now. Some of that's going to get taken out of it as we really start messing with the profile. I will be forging in the bevels just a little bit on that thing. I'm not going to go too crazy because I do want a plunge line. What's going to happen is I'm going to force this section in here, and it's going to create that kind of coffin shape handle. Now this is a long, skinnier version of one of them. Let's see here. Grinding down titanium. Holy crap. Currently sitting in front of the fire. The shop, that's what I want. Nice. Lab daggers with Steve. Hell yeah. Big dagger brass. Yep. That thing's going to look really cool whenever y'all get to see it. Brass knife. No. Frame lock holders. Hell yeah. There, but 60 watt fiber for what? No, those coins that you were doing for one are really cool. Coffin handle boot dagger. Well, so my handle will be a kind of coffin handle for my dagger, but it is going to be cool because I'm doing the handle construction kind of like I did on the military challenge, but with copper instead of the steel. So the liner is going to be copper. It's going to be a frame handle. It's going to be, I think y'all are going to like it. It's just going to be cool. Now I want to go ahead and flatten this back out, switch anvils. The whole reason behind switching anvils to flatten is because these edges are pretty round, where these are really sharp. I don't want to put a bunch of those dents in the spine of this. Do what you gotta do whenever you're straightening, like some of this stuff, and just doing slight planishing with it being a little bit colder. And what won't happen is you won't put a bunch of aggressive dents everywhere where you go onto a sharp edge. If you do all of that whenever it's still glowing, you'll put crazy dents everywhere as you go. But now what I need to do is I need to kind of smooth out the transition from the blade into the tang. I need this to calm down there. I need this to go where it needs to go. So I need this to be a smooth transition in here. Some of the things with the gimbal that happens is your hand gestures will mess with it a little bit. So the start and stop of the follow me feature is if you hold your hand up like that, it'll stop following you. You do this, it'll start following you. And then there's another one that you do that turns it to horizontal mode. So like your panoramic type mode. If how much was the gimbal set up? So this was $126. It's a Hohem iSteady V3. And it's awesome because you got this remote right here that has another screen on it. And you can actually go through and change the different settings. If I want to turn on the light or do any of that. So let's say I want to turn on the light. Boop. Now I have the light on here. Lights off, lights on, change the brightness, do all that stuff on here, change the light settings, do all of that. And it's really cool. Like you can mess with the joystick, I can adjust where I am at in the frames and all that stuff, but you have the remote. And then the nice thing is it's a separate camera that's actually following me. So it's not my phone that's following me, it's a separate camera. So I can switch it to where it's the camera on the back side of the phone, or I could do whatever I want. The gimbal itself is what will track me. I love that. And then you can highlight different things. You can, I can do project, Mark, I'll talk to you later. But yeah, it's definitely cool. It does not care what phone you have. You don't have to have anything super fancy or anything like that because the gimbal itself is doing everything for you. And it was absolutely worth it. Man, because trying to set up those different angles and all that, you know how it goes with the live stream. It's a pain in the butt. If y'all don't know, Duck Rabbit does do a live stream as well. So y'all can follow him. So we just start the handle in this little profile right here. I'll compress that down quite a bit more. Not anything too crazy, but you'll see as we do this. So now we need to create a good transition. By good transition, I just mean a nice taper transition between the blade and the tang. So I'm going to do the handle construction on this one similar to the way that I did the one that has the splatter paint on it. But the difference is I'm going to use this blue kind of, I wouldn't call it jade. It is technically like a jade, but I'm going to use it with black pins instead of that whinge that I used. So it's this material right here. I'm going to use this with black pins and black liners on it, but I'm going to do that same kind of handle makeup on there, and I'm not going to do the splatter etch on it. I'm going to do ground bevels and everything like that with the Brute de Forge section for the flats and the ricasso, and then around the actual handle itself. So you'll see that Brute de Forge finish. Maybe I'll clean it up. It's just going to be a cool looking knife. Tap, tap, tap it in. You better believe it. What's up, Mule? Yeah, and a lot of them are designed for the iPhone only because the software that tracks you is on the iPhone. So one of the things that I found with this gimbal is what it does is because the camera that follows you is off to the left of the phone, it almost puts you to where you are centered in your screen over here. But what it lets you do is it lets you actually adjust the offset of where I'm at. So if I need to center myself, I can actually adjust just the offset so I end up right back in the center again. And this gimbal has a 400, I think it's like 400 grams or something like that, weight on it that it can actually hold. Some of the other gimbals, they only hold a little bit, so you can't actually use like a mic or different things like that because it can't handle the weight, the actual motors on there. Oh, Matt, what's up, Mr. Rich? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a smidge of stretching and distilling on the Tang. I'm not going to go too crazy because I still need to work on this blade a little bit. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to draw the heel on the blade out just a hair first before I distal taper it. That way we don't have to worry about messing up that section too much. But just to give you an idea, this is what the blade looks like right now. Because by the end of it, it's going to be a really cool looking blade. You should attach squirt gun. People donate 20. That would be hilarious. So that's where we're at kind of right now. We do need to forge in the bevels still. All of my blades that are like this, my petties and all those things all have forged bevels. You barely do any grinding. That way you get a lot of that Brute Forge texture. But I'm going to leave the Tang this short for right now because I'm going to end up distal tapering it, and that'll bring it down to about right here. But right now I need to pull these bevels out just a little bit and get them nice and good. One of the things that I'm going to do is this section right here where the point of these are. You can see this little shiny piece right here. That's where this is kind of folded over just a little bit from holding it in my tongs. I'm going to file that little section off so that doesn't get forged into my bevels. Working on a hidden Tang. Well, in the shop. Multitasking. Gonna be sleeping. Nice. So we're going to file off that little lip on there. You don't want to fold that over, especially if you're going to be getting this forged pretty close to your final product. Because what will happen is whenever you go to start grinding that and cleaning it off, you'll chip off that little section, and then you'll have a depth that you got to grind down to in order to get rid of it. Racing for the snow. I'm surprised it's not actually snowing where you're at. I know for a fact it's been snowing where Matt's at. Had to have been. So now y'all might be wondering why I'm not going to forge the bevels fully on this quenchen. And the whole point behind that is purely just because I want there to be a plunge line. I want there to be certain depth changes on it. I am going to forge them a little bit, but I'm not going to go too crazy. Just because, again, the whole point behind this is to have a certain aesthetic and transition sections whenever I'm actually done messing with it. We're going to go back to the blade. So the reason why we forge, for y'all non-bladesmith people, the reason why we forge is to be able to maximize our material and achieve a goal. If we are just forging for the sake of forging, it's not doing anything. Or if you're forging just because you can prove that you're forging, you know, that's great and all, but for me, I forge to achieve a certain goal. And if I am going to do stock removal, I'm going to do stock removal. If I'm going to do bladesmithing, I do bladesmithing. So it is what it is, in order to be able to accomplish my end result. Rose gold, but it's a bit cold. Testing here, but cold for sure. Hey, see, it's crazy. This dusting there yet in Texas here, you can't even see our grass. Like, it is just nonsensical. So somewhere I'm going to be try and drive. That'll be cool. See, it'll be nice being able to see you there at Blade Atlanta. So I've got my table, my new table at Blade Texas, and then I've got Blade Atlanta, same table that I was at last year for Blade Atlanta. Switch tongs. So what I'm going to do with the bevels on this, as I draw them out, I'm going to switch to a cross peen. This is a finer cross peen right here, and I'm just going to do the initial drawing of these bevels with that. That way I can kind of pinpoint where I want them to be at. Now these don't have super high heels, but what's going to end up happening is whenever I finish messing with the profile, it is going to shift this down a little bit. But like I said, these don't have big, I keep turning myself, okay, there we go. So these don't have huge heels as they come around. I show like Western Canada. One car. Where's my shows? But I will tell you this. Just like you said, Duck, driving to these shows in a modern car is nowhere near as fun. Like being able to take my Porsche to those different events is so much fun. So I need to flatten this out just a hair. Just so that I can forge in the bevels a little bit and finish out the actual arch to it with that. I'll probably straighten it just a hair more, and then I'll go through and I'm just gonna subtly forge bevels. I'm not gonna get too crazy with it. And the whole point behind forging the bevels on that one is so that whenever I do grind the actual bevels into it, I want that brute de forge to actually come down the blade a little bit. I don't want it to be, I guess you could say, here, let's grab a blade. So like this one. I want to have all of this texture transition right there. This is one that I'm getting ready to do a maker's mark on. But I want to have this transition line right here and have it be a little bit further down. If I was to just leave it completely flat and I flat ground this, I wouldn't get hardly anything up here. It would just be ground almost all the way up into here to clean that up. Or I would have really weird texture on here or something like that. So what I like to do is forge those in, plus I get the nice texture all the way down here going towards the heel, as opposed to removing a bunch of that. As you can see, that tapers all the way down to the heel there. And I like to have the texture built into that taper. Uh-huh. You got to be going from both sides. As you go, and you can see we get all of that profile back into it as we start forging that. And you can see primarily where I'm forging. This section here, that duller section, no real hammer strikes on that. Most of it is just on this side over here. Good old titanium, throwing all the sparks. Bevel and bark, what's going on? Good, start smelling. Yeah, the grinding on titanium is something else. Okay, go back in here with this finer cross peen again. I'm not going too crazy with the hammer strikes. But I am getting a little bit of height out of that, and then I'm going to end up switching to the fat peen, cross peen on this next heat. Of course, I can planish it, add just a little bit. Best part about ADCRV2 is you do not have to worry about forging it on the cooler side, because you can actually cold forge ADCRV2. So we'll switch away from that hammer, and on the next heat for that one, we're going to use the Two Bastards fat peen. Every hammer that I've used so far, all by Two Bastards. These people right here, Two Bastards Texas Smithy & Supply. They actually sponsor my channel for a while now. All my hammers that I use are by them. Jamaican. So I am doing a quenchen, and then I'm also doing a little petty knife. So this is like a quenchen / Tonto guy right here. You gotta remember, whenever you're forging in bevels, you're coming from both sides. If not, then you're making a chisel. You're not making a double bevel knife, like an actual regular knife. You're making a chisel. You're just forging from one side. And what will end up happening is, as you do that, you'll actually get a weird warp whenever you go through and heat treat. If you just forge from one side, whenever you go and quench, you'll actually get a warp because of how you forged it. Right now I'm just going through making sure everything is straight. So we have our profile, we're straight, got our thinner edge on this side, bevels forged in. We're still flat in our Tang area because we need to make sure that this has an oversized handle here. Because of the way that I'm going to do the handle on it, I need to have a certain amount of handle left that's flat. So that still needs to be planished a little bit. Oh, I see the old Miss Rivers in there. So now, fat peen by Two Bastards. We are forging the bevels with the cross peen. Some of y'all might be wondering why. And what it does is it lets me get height as I forge them out, as opposed to forging with a a rounding hammer, you get 360-degree movement. This lets me get primarily height, and then I'll actually do the distal taper with a straight peen. Because right now, we have almost no taper to the tip, but we're just working on this profile as we go. I'm going to do just a little bit more work on the actual cross peen with this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to flip back to the Tang, get that distal tapered out, then we're going to grab it from that side, distal taper out to the tip, and then we'll planish it all together. And that'll be a forge to finish, almost kind of petty knife. Need a better hammer, just have one from Harbor Freight. Two Bastards, that's the one you want to go through because you can actually talk to them. And I've got links for all their stuff in a lot of my videos and everything like that. But the phone number, 972-948-9941. So Frank Machado. He's the guy that makes all my hammers with Two Bastards. The Two Bastards are Frank and Nita. They've been doing this for like 7 years, supplying hammers for people. Absolutely awesome. Their hammers are priced amazingly. It's just the place you want to go for it. Basic buoy, recurve chopper, fighter style is my favorite. Yep. I dig all of those profiles. I have a lot of them. Because I've made a whole bunch of them. Okay, so now we just want to planish this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my turning hammer. Also Two Bastards. But now what I want to do is make sure my spine is an even thickness. If you don't do that, when you go to grind it, your transition from your bevels up into your flats won't be even on both sides, or it'll be really hard. It'll be really hard to get a nice steady line up to the tip where your flats meet your bevels. I get a lot of people that ask me how I get my brute to forge knives to have that. And it's all about having even spine thickness, forging your bevels from both sides. All I'm doing at this lower heat is just cleaning things up and planishing, guys. Some of the newer knife makers will look at it and go, holy crap, he's forging that thing super cold. If this was 52-100, I would not be doing this. But because it's 80 CRB2, it's perfectly fine. And all I'm doing with that is just making sure that my spine thickness is as even as possible all the way down. And you can see that there's a transition right here between the bevels and the flats up in that area on both sides, because this is really smooth here and then kind of rougher on this back side. But doing these steps right here is what elevates your brute to forge finish. Again, whenever you go through and you grind them, you can get real smooth lines like this right here, where you have this swedge and then your bevels, and you got a nice plunge that goes up into your flats, and that transitions real well into like a swedge, stuff like that, instead of having a bunch of weird dips. Makes your final product look way better just by having that little extra time in there. What are y'all talking about over here? EDC, so I guess technically it's my favorite. Yeah, I guess that's valid. A little bit. So let me make another one. Oh, isn't that how it goes? Now we don't go super thin on the 80 CRV2 because you got a lot of decarb that builds up whenever you actually do your heat treat process on there, but we do want it to still be a little bit thinner. Now there's things that we can do. We can coat the blade and make it to where it's not going to get as much decarb. So I'll use things like the nuclear no scale, and that'll help a little bit on that decarb layer, but still you don't want to forge it too thin because you will have to get through the decarb layer so that you actually have hardened steel. So just something to think about. Man, it's been a while since I've done one of these live streams. I think what I might do is trying to figure out a day on Friday that I can actually do them, because on Saturdays we do the farmers market here and there. Now, if we don't have a farmer's market next Saturday, because it's supposed to be like this again, possibly next weekend, then I'll be live streaming. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be live streaming on Saturday. Maybe I'll start live streaming on Fridays. We'll see how that goes. Because I want to be able to do it. It's just got to make sense with the timing on it. Okay. So there's the profile of this. Now, of course, with this one right here, you end up messing with it a little bit in the grind and all of that to finalize the profile. There won't be much that comes off of that, but there will be a little bit of adjustments as we go through. But we're nice and straight as we go down. That's what we're looking for. And we want just that pull up on the blade a little bit straighter on the Tang, because we do have to put a handle on this. And then we need to make sure we clean everything up. But we have our bevels subtly forged. You can see the transition line, dark and light, where that actually comes through. But that is our quenchen on there. So I'm going to leave that outside of the forge right now while I am working on this. So that's going to stay up here towards the opening and just hang out for right now. You don't want to put it in the forge right now and have it start coming up the tip to anneal it, because it's just going to get overheated. And if it's just sitting in the forge the whole time. We're going to pull it out whenever we actually go through and do whenever we start annealing this one. So now, switch hammers, go back. With that square, switch to our straight peen. Start pulling this taper out. What we're doing is we're just putting those lines across here, so they're hitting this way. We're going to extend this out. We're primarily focused from behind where your index finger is going to sit, so about your middle finger back is what we're going to do, and then that will get planished up into the ricasso, and we'll do basically the same thing with the blade. We'll start distal tapering it from here to the tip, and then it'll get planished back up into the ricasso, so that the ricasso has a nice even transition from the ricasso into the Tang and from the ricasso to the tip. Especially whenever you're working on these thinner steels, you need to make sure that you're actually doing it similar to this process here. Because you really can't, let's say if I do a wrong strike on the ricasso, I then have to, if I want it to be smooth, I then have to make everything the thinness of where that strike hit at the ricasso. If I leave the ricasso untouched and I planish up to it and then planish up to it from the other direction, that ricasso is still the same thickness that it was roughly whenever I started. If I accidentally put a hammer strike there with this cross peen or straight peen and I thin that down, unless I'm trying to show all the hammer strikes, I'll have to go through and thin everything down to the depth of that hammer strike. Just something to think about. Let's see here. You should try making a forging hammer so we can all have 4 hours of sleep. Right? And I would, eventually I might make a hammer, but because I have a hammer maker as a sponsor, it kind of defeats the purpose. But I've got a chunk right here to actually do a hammer out of if I decide to. See you later, mule. But yeah, I've got the chunk of steel for whenever I decide to do my hammer. I can, but you know, having a hammer sponsor kind of defeats the purpose of forging hammers. I'll do it whenever I just want to, you know what I mean? Okay, that's all the length that we really need out of that. So now what we got to do is just, you see, I've already forged in. There's your distal, rough distal right there. But that's the length that we need. So everything from there is just going to be planishing it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a round of just smoothing out those hammer strikes. And then we're going to go ahead, distal out that blade. We don't want to go too crazy with the planishing of the Tang right now. We just kind of want to get it where it needs to be and semi-smooth, because we're going to be planishing that up into the ricasso and really getting it nice and smooth after we do the blade. Remember, do all your abuse of the steel and all of that first, and then make everything look pretty and beautiful. Because like right now, the profile isn't fully correct or anything like that, because we got to go through and do our tapers, get everything out, get everything out, get everything out. And now, I will tell you this. If you are not going to leave any of the forged texture on your blade, you don't have to do all the work that I'm doing right now. You just need to get your profile situated. I keep taking that thing and unfocusing on myself. But you don't have to do all the work that I'm doing if you're just going to do stock removal in the end. You don't have to do all this planishing, do all of this crap, because you're going to end up grinding it all away anyways. But I plan on leaving a lot of this forged texture, so I want to have it all in there. So like this right here, now this is a 52-100 blade. But this right here, this is how thin this is. This is fully forged, okay? So you can see how thin that taper is on there. This is fully forged. There's no grinding that has been done to this Tang. This is still all the forging texture and everything like that. To that thin. Hell no, I haven't finished this one. I've got like 50, 60 blades right now. I've got more than that. But this is just one of the ones that's going to Blade, Texas. So I've got 22 that I'm finishing by Blade, Texas. I'll be bringing 35 with me. I still have like another 30 that are forged and not done. So bring this to where it's following me again, and I'm going to flip you all around just so you can see. This is just not even a quarter right here of blades that still need to be done. There's more on a wall back off over here, plus I still have all the ones that are on the workbench. What I tried to do was I tried to move the amount of blades that are over here. But yeah, because I do the farmer's market, I finish all of my farmer's market knives like crazy. Like those get done before everything because they have to go to do that. But yeah, I've completed a lot of knives since the last knife show. And it's just one of those deals where it all have to make sense. If I already have some petty knives for the table or some of my chefs, I'm not going to complete another one. I'm going to complete EDCs because my EDCs sell really fast. Those are what need to go on the table so that I can sell them and make money off of them. So my little chefs and all the random ones like that, I don't finish those until I'm going to be at a blade show where I can actually sell them at full price. Because at the farmer's market, people aren't spending the same amount of money as at an actual knife show. So a lot of those blades that are like that, those are all saved for blade. Because I don't finish the knives for the sake of finishing them. I finish them to make money. Because money pays the bills. Having a bunch of finished cool knives that just hang out, that don't pay the bills. plus I'm gone from my house over 60 hours a week. If I was a full-time knife maker and had like a part-time job or something like that, it'd be one thing. But I drive an hour to work and back from work each work day, and then I work 10 to 12 hours each work day too. So I'm gone over 60 hours a week from my house. So the knives that I finish have got to make money, or I need to not be working on them. No, that profile right there has only been, you think that because it's similar to my other profiles, but that one was heat treated in the hot shot oven. So all my blades that are heat treated right now, those are all hot shot oven knives. That one's a 52-100. So this was forged out of the section that I cut out of that chopper that I made, the 52-100 chopper that I did like a couple months ago. This blade was forged from the handle area that I cut out of that stock removal chopper. So this is 52-100. It's only been in the shop since, well after I got the hot shot oven, because it was forged after that. And then, because I didn't really do much of the 52-100 till I got the oven, because it's real finicky with heat treating in a forge. So I did that, finally started working with it. But yeah, this was forged out of that piece. I didn't do any of 52-100 like 2 years ago. But yeah, that's just because it's very similar to my other profiles. That's why it looks the same. But yeah, none of the knives. Well, I would say out of all the knives that are on the workbench right now, that are ones from that long ago, it's going to be the kukri and these two integral bolsters. So this one has been here for 2 years. Absolutely. Yeah, I forged that a while back on one of the live streams. And then of course the kukri, this was from the Texas Custom Knife Show 2 years ago. This was the one that I did out of a big chunk of 1095. So, yeah, that's been there for a while. But these two are the only ones that are still on the workbench over here because I want to finish those. This one's going to be really cool. This is the piece of antler that's going with this right here. That is like the perfect piece of antler for this. That's the profile and everything. That's the one that's going to be on this. I'll have a little G10 spacer. And this is just pre-heat treat bevels on here. But yeah, that is going to be a sexy profile. But yeah, I do have plenty of knives that have been in here for a really, really, really long time. But it's just, again, because I've been doing so many shows, I've had to finish all the EDCs. I've got a whole batch of EDCs over here. I've got a batch of 6, another batch of 6, a batch of 4, and all of those have got to be done by Blade, Texas. So it's a lot. It's absurd is what it is. So we're going to switch to, again, straight peen, work on some distal tapers on the blade. As I'm distal tapering this, I am focusing more on the cutting edge side than the spine. The spine is still getting some hits, but I want to be able to draw it out and taper it, and also refine that blade profile. As I go through and do this, we want the strikes on there, but we also want a refined blade profile. We don't want to be wasting a heat, so we might as well be cleaning up the profile as we're going through and forging this out. Don't waste your time. If you're going to do a step and you can do 2 steps in one, well, do that. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Again, a lot of people want to try and do these, and they think that they have to do one step and then the other step and then the other step and then the other step. But if you're going to be a bladesmith, you need to think through your blacksmith brain and be as efficient as possible. Okay, it's all about being efficient. So if I'm going to go through and stretch it, if I can stretch it and keep my hammer slightly angled to where I'm still getting across the whole entire height, but I'm compressing that edge more than anything, and I'm still stretching, but I'm also able putting that slight belly to the blade and still pulling out the spine just a little bit, but I get that nice distal, I get bevels, I get everything all in one hit, one swing of a hammer. And is this still the most efficient way to forge? Probably not. I would say the most efficient way to forge is using this. Just turning on the power hammer and just and knocking it all out. But if I was doing that, y'all wouldn't learn much because y'all don't have a power hammer. If y'all had power hammers, then it'd be super easy for you. But if I'm doing that, y'all aren't learning much. I primarily use that for like my steak flippers and stuff like that. So I want y'all to see the profile. You see that bump right there? So that bump will slowly start coming out as I start planishing things together. Now I'll end up taking that tip back just a hair, but you can see how fine that tip is right now, how it tapers from here out to the tip. Have that profile right there. Put it back in the heat. Now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to come through, I'm going to grab it by the blade. We're going to adjust that profile just a smidge. Nice and easy. Certainly none of us have that power. Plenty of people have a power hammer. You might not have this exact power hammer, but there are plenty of people that have a power hammer. I will tell you this. Efficient energy-wise, it is a lot easier to use the power hammer, but I do forge faster than the power hammer. So me personally, with my own strength and all of that, I forge faster than that does. But whenever you're forging Damascus or like a Sanmai or something like that, and you got to do a lot of even swings that are the same hit and stuff like that, or you're trying to draw it out a whole bunch, it is nice using that. Especially if you're doing like several things back to back. So like whenever I'm doing my stake flippers, because I have 5 or 6 of them in the forge at one time. Whenever I'm going through and I'm forging those, you're forging constantly. Constantly. It's nice using the power hammer to make yourself not as exhausted. I'm not going to go too crazy with the adjustment of this profile just because I kind of like that harpoon a little bit. So I'm not going to go too crazy with the adjustment on it, but I am going to adjust it. I wouldn't say it's a pretty short stroke. I mean, you're talking about 12 inches is about what it goes. Nah, it's probably not 12. Let's see here. So yeah, about 9 inches, because it goes pretty much all the way up to that collar there. But yeah, it's not like some of those crazy ones that just get like Will Stelter and them use. Absolutely nuts. Like 200-pound rams and things like that. So we took a little bit of that bump out. Now I could take all of it out if I want to. Or I could leave it in there. I think what I want to do is I want to pull this Tang up a little bit more. So I am going to eliminate it. So whenever I'm doing that, all I'm doing is I am hanging it off and I'm just glancing off the actual point of that and just drawing it back, and I'm just basically just offsetting this deal without forging directly on the spine of the Tang where the finger choil is, because I don't want to really compress that area down anymore. I just want to shift it. So yeah, tire hammers are the K-swap of the power hammer. Yeah, tire hammers are wild. Short stroke, yeah. So whenever you see people with those the little bitty lightweight rams on a little giant, whew, those things, man, those things put in absolute work, man. And they're not like big, heavy rams or anything like that. Okay. On here, glance back into it. I'm pushing pressure on the actual, so I'm pushing into this. And I'm glancing it back. Because I want to, again, I want to force this down without making this cross section any narrower. So we're putting a bunch of pressure into this finger shoal area here. Man, I need to use my damn. We're putting pressure into this section right here, and hammering here. And what it's doing is, instead of making this section narrower right here, it's using this section by pushing it forward into this right here, into the blade. It's pushing that into here and let me push this down in. If I was just hammering with basically in this section right here with this on the anvil, I would be pushing this down and making this section smaller. It would be going in towards the spine here. But what I'm doing is I am pushing this into the anvil here, and I'm hammering here, and what it's doing is it's transferring that energy into just this little area right here and pushing this material this way and pushing this down. So it's only pinching between here and here as opposed to here and here. You can see where this darker area is right here. That's the only area that really moved at all. And that's because this section was back here. And it was more of a rounded section, but now it's more of a 90-degree angle. So that might be something y'all wanted to know. It might not be something y'all wanted to know, but there's ways to modify these profiles without actually hurting your profile. The hit doesn't do much. They add up real quick. Yep. See, eventually I will get a little giant or something like that, but primarily so that it just decreases the footprint. So I've debated on putting this power hammer on the pad, because with the way that I'm going to be rebuilding the shop, if y'all didn't know this, I'm going to be rebuilding the shop. So the roof on this is going away. The roof on the 12x12 is going away. And what I'm going to do is I'm turning the 12x12 into a 2-story. So it's just going to be a loft up there. The whole entire side is going to be open on this side. I'm going to be creating a new ridge line and with beams and all of that, and an actual big beam up top. And what's going to end up happening is you'll walk upstairs inside this shop up into the loft. So I'll have a 12x12 loft above the shop, and then the roof is actually going to extend over the pad. So I'll have a semi-loft above the pad, which is 8 foot by like 16 feet. And that'll be a loft for storing things and all of that. It'll go from about 7 feet tall down to, you know, the side over here. But there'll be shelving and whatnot up there. And then I'll have all my stuff up on top of the 12x12 plus the actual 12x12. And the pad is getting turned into a grinding room. So it's going to be pretty interesting. But that's the easiest way to add the square footage without adding square footage to my footprint. So it's going to be fun. Luckily, we're almost done messing with this. We've pretty much all the people that are watching around now are people that have watched me in the past. And I didn't figure this was going to be like a super large live stream or anything like that, because I haven't live streamed in a while. But, you know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna like this profile. So this is just where we're at right now on this. I think y'all are gonna probably like it too. We just need to planish it, clean it up. But that profile is looking nice. Distal tapers and all of that. It's not all straight yet because I gotta planish it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this thing, kick it down just a little bit during the planishing phase. But I like how this looks now that we've actually adjusted the spine here and we're able to pull that forward and create more of that 90-degree profile right there. So that's looking good. I've got a little spot that I need to file off. I mean, it would come off in the grind anyways, but why risk forgetting about it? Cool. We'll go back in the forge and we will start our planishing phase. Not bad for just a little improvised forging. I miss Texas this year. You keep making babies and not knives. Yeah, y'all do. Y'all gonna have a little compound. Hey, but you know what? That's a good thing. I'm happy for you. You definitely need to keep making babies. You know, we've been on the fence a little bit about having another one. You know, we got a 15-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old. So we had, you know, the 15-year-old's almost 16. So we've got 7 years between the oldest and the second, and then we went pretty much back to back with the third, and it's like now we're gonna have 7 years between our daughter, which is the youngest, the 7-year-old, and another one if we have another one. But I'm literally 41 years old, so it's like if I want to have another kid, we can have another kid and you know, still have a long life to live after that. And me personally, I like having our kids in our house. I'm not one of those people that's like, I can't wait for these people to move out. No, I like having my kiddos here. They're awesome. They're the best parts of my day every day. They do the coolest stuff I've ever seen. Constantly. It's just so damn cool. Okay. Fix this profile just a little bit so that everything lines up how it's supposed to. A little bit of planishing. See, that Tang's looking good. Got the Tang distilled. It's nice and straight. Good profile on it. Now what we need to do, grab it from that side, put the blade into the forge, heat it up. We don't need to go super hot with this one right here. We don't need it to be, you know, burning up or anything like that because we're just going to be planishing the blade. So we do not need it to be glowing orange because what's going to happen is I hit it and it's going to do too much. Here's a cool, but growing up as the oldest of 7, I'm probably going to have 1 or 2, which is cool. Told my wife I wanted 1, got 4. 2, and my second wife has 5. I got the scissors 27 years ago. So when it comes to me, I've got, I am one of a very, 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 very large family. And it's lots of brothers and sisters. And then all of us all have kids, several kids. So you got to use like the panoramic thing with the pictures whenever you want to go through and take pictures of our family. It's a lot. You know, we procreated. My parents did. My dad's been married like 7 times. My mom is one of the wives, and she had 4 kids. That gives you any idea. The OG Frenchie, what's going on? Hey, your knife build that you're working on right now is looking real good. Real good. One of the things that I was going to tell you, because you're using mild steel, and you've probably already done this already, you're probably on the next phase in your guard, but if you ever have it happen like that, where you go through and you file your slot for your Tang and a guard like that, and you get a little bit of gapping on the side, just take a ball peen hammer and tap the sections in between the opening, your slot, between the where it meets the sides of the ricasso, that little gap in between that and the side of the guard, just tap in there with the ball peen, and it will actually force that material in towards the actual slot, and then you can just file it away, and then you can just put it on your grinder and clean up the little hammer marks. So that way you don't have to try and weld it or do any of that. You just literally tap those in there and expand out that area, and then clean it up on the 2x72 and golden. But I've been following your build, so just in case you were wondering. Make sure our cutting edge is centered. Make sure our spine looks good. And it does. Okay. Now we switch tongs to a tong that is not a box jaw tong. Go through, look down it, make sure it's all centered from the Tang through the tip, and then we grab it from the front. Do the same exact thing from the tip to the Tang. Now we get to show y'all this. So this is our profile. Okay, fully profiled with our distal through to the tip. And you can see how fine that tip is right there through to our Tang. Looking good right there, all the way through to the tip. So we have full profile. We've got a nice smooth ricasso. We've got good flats up into here. We got our, you know, our distals. We got our bevels forged. Everything how we want it. And all that is just going through and having a plan and using preforms, using the right hammers at the right time. If anything, I could actually go through and I can tap. That right there. Just clean that up just a little bit. But yeah. Nice and simple. Nothing too crazy. Just as a little bonus knife. I forged this knife just because I was forging the other one and it was going way too fast. So in 1 hour, we were able to get that quenchen forged and this pretty much forged to finish. Because, I mean, you've got those bevels forged down completely. You've got that distal forged down to that fine. So it's one of those things where, again, whenever you watch people on Forged in Fire go through and do their whole entire thing. Now, of course, they're not making little small penny knives or anything like that, but I do wish that I would have went on the show and actually tried that out, just because the way that I forge and everything is, I don't know. Again, is it the best way to forge? No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so at all. I would just say, is it a way to forge? Sure. Is it the best way to forge? No. It's just an efficient way to forge. Thinking about preforms, thinking about being able to use a hammer to do 2 jobs at once whenever you're using it, so that you're actually maximizing your benefit. Now, of course, again, if I was trying to forge these super fast and get them knocked out, these would have been done in 30 minutes. These would have been done in the minimal amount of heats possible. There's the right way, there's the wrong way, and the way I do it, correct, 100%. And it's just what it is. You know, we all smith our own ways, but a lot of the times, the way my brain works, my little autistic brain, okay, the way it works is I like to be efficient with the time that I use. So where an ADHD brain gets stuck in little individual tasks and then they don't complete tasks because they go from this thing, they sit it down here, and then they go, this needs to be cleaned, so I clean that, and oh, I just knocked it on the floor, so now I gotta sweep the floor, I gotta put the broom over there, oh, my belts are unorganized, now I gotta organize my belts, and before you know it, whatever you started with over here is still there. This ain't finished because you started sweeping it, got on the floor, you started sweeping there, you put the thing over here, and those things don't work. The way I do things is I start with the shop cleaned. I clean the whole entire shop. That's a task. It's done. So that whenever I go through and I start forging and doing all that stuff, I get to start with no distractions. Everything's organized. Everything's put away where it needs to go. So I can just forge. And then I just do my job. I have it all set up. And then I complete everything that I need to complete. And it all has a purpose. It all has a task. It's all where it needs to be. And whenever I'm doing something, if I can do 2 things at one time, then I do that. If I can use one hammer to knock out bevels and a distal, well, then I'm going to do that. If I can use a specific anvil for one specific thing, that it can actually do 2 things at once, well, very fantastic, do that. It's all about making your life a lot more efficient and easier, and not getting distracted and just not doing the project. Now, that's not to say I don't get distracted, but whenever I do get distracted, it's on purpose. because I don't want to finish something, and I do not want to do that task. So I will purposely distract myself. Okay, so I heated up the actual blade section of this, and I'm going to go through and put the Tang in the forge while that was already, so the blade was already warmed up. Annealing it is not going to be super important for the blade section of this because I do not need to do much to the blade section. Annealing it is so that I can drill through the steel whenever I need to do my pins and all that stuff. So I warmed up the blade side so that I still had it. It's going to cool slower because it's at the opening of the forge. But because that blade is not going to fit in the whole entire forge right now, because of the way I had the forge set up, I'm going through, heat it up one side, put the Tang in there. I'm going to let it cool down with the forge. Okay. Forging and fishing. Heck yeah. What branch of the tree swing from? Right. Wish I could separate shot. Yeah, it's so nice. Most available workspace I have is set on a lawnmower. Yep. We're talking about autism and ADHD. Of course we are. Let me tell you something. You're not a knife maker if you don't have a little bit of the tism or a little bit of the ADHD or the ADD. It is what it is. A lot of us knife makers, we just have that. This is not the type of hobby that you have in 2026 unless you just need to get out into your shop and away from everybody and do tasks and random shit. Like, it is just what it is. Like, you can buy all this crap. You can buy a knife from Academy for like $25, okay? What do? Collect a whole lot of tools and make them. It is what it is. This is a craft that has been made easier and easier and easier every year. What do? We blacksmith. There's like literally all the tools we could possibly need. I got a heat treating oven. I've got all the grinders. I've got everything that I can do to not even need to do the blacksmithing side of this. And I still do the blacksmithing side of this. So let's just be real, man. Let's just be real. I'm not diagnosed, but yeah. I gotta spend most of my free time as a child digging a really big hole. Yep. I feel that. I absolutely feel that. And yes, that is true, Matt. From learning ADHD from learning this craft. Accurate. Saving money because I have the ability to have more knives. That's the $600 Anvil. Yep. Correct. And that's the best part about doing this. I was a knife collector before I was a knife maker. And now, if I think of a knife that I think is really cool, I don't go, I wonder who makes that so I can buy that. I go, oh, I'm going to go out to the shop and I'm going to make that. Almost every knife that I make in here is purely just because I want to be able to hold that knife. And then I'll sell it, but I want to be able to have it, hold it, maybe swing it through a couple of things. Just because. And then the ones that I think are really cool, I keep those. Or I sell them for a lot of money. And it's just awesome. I get to have all of those cool things. I'll see somebody, and I said this in one of my daily doses. A lot of what we do, we get a lot of our designs and our knife styles from other people. Marty, you already see my breath. Turn the forge off 2 minutes ago. But it's turn this fan off. Now, it's one of those things where we get a lot of our ideas from other people, and not just other people like uh, we're trying to copy everybody's, but you know, whenever you make a Bowie knife, it's not that you're copying Mike Quisenberry because he makes Bowie knives. If you don't know who that is, he's an amazing knife maker. His knives sell for 10, 15, $20,000. But just because he makes buoys and he's one of the most famous people, it's not that you're copying him. There was a person who originally came up with that design. So if we make a clip point, we make a buoy, we make different things like that, even though we're not trying to copy a specific person, the knife profile has existed. If you decided to make a drop point knife, if you decided to make a camp knife, if you decided to make a chopper, if you decided to make a clip point buoy, if you decided to make a kukri, if you decided to make all those things, you are copying that from someone. It just is what it is. It's not saying that your design is not original, but the knives have already been made. The saxes, the kukris, the choppers, the machetes, the swords, all of that. We just take design points from those people that originated those things and make them with our own flair. So yeah. Toby. He must be on my computer right now. Hit for Nilsson Anvil. It's awesome. Eric will save it too. Yep. Yeah, this Anvil is absolutely awesome. I use it at all my demos. That guy. That's his Master Smith series. J. Nilsson. Texas Fair Supply. Best offer is $600 for custom hunting knife. Nice. Well, I will tell you this: making money off any of your knives is absolutely awesome. So it's one of those things where we can make all the cool knives in the world. If nobody buys them for anything, then we're just a knife collector who happens to make knives. If you could sell them for $100, $80, $75, doesn't matter. Just sell them, get some money from them, and do it. And buy other things. It's one of those deals where you don't have to make $1 million off of knife making. You just need to make some of your money back so that you can continue the craft and continue making what you're making. But either way, if you like making knives, you're going to make them whether you're making money off of them or not. It's just is what it is. If you can get to a point to where you're making good money off of them, fantastic. You know, I do this as a business. I've done this as a business for a while now, and it's just one of those things where, you know, it works out and you get to recoup your cost, and you get to do things like getting a hot shot heat treating oven, or you know, your grinders and all that stuff. It's like it develops as you go, as you sell more things. And for me, it just happens to be that I'm a popular person within the knife making community who has a good social following, who actually puts himself out there, and I do demos at shows and I get paid to travel and do that stuff. But that's because I'm willing to do that, and I'm entertaining, and I have created a little niche in the market for myself. But you know, you just do what you got to do to, you know, further your craft and have fun. That's all there is to it. The oven. Have you figured out how to make it temper reliably? Oh yeah, yeah. Seriously. So it only fluctuates, especially at like 300 degrees, 350 degrees. It fluctuates maybe 5 degrees over under on that. So it's fantastic. And again, it's one of those things where all you do is put the knives in there and it's going to heat up until that, and then it's going to cool back down. So you'll have your time setting. So I'd have it set for an hour or 2 hours or however much I want to do for that specific recipe of tempering for that steel and what the knife is built for, whether it be a chef knife or whatever. I just put that all into the machine. Like it does it all because I got the digital readout, and I put all the times, the ramp up speeds, all everything, all in there. It's pretty cool. where it fluctuates like plus minus 25 degrees. Yeah, mine's not. It'll go minus 25 degrees if I am opening the door, but when it comes to the actual, once it ramps up back up to that temp and stays there, it's like 5 degrees. It is doesn't fluctuate anywhere near 20 something degrees. It is 5, almost dead on, and it's awesome. I will be doing more stuff with the heat treat oven for a few of the daily doses, just because I've got to go through and heat treat all these 80 CRV2 blades. So I'll be talking more about the hot shot oven in those daily doses. And it's just one of those deals where it's a great thing. And I'm going to be doing more uh, posts as we go through, because now that I have the gimbal and I can actually do different things like this right here and not have to worry about setting up different shots, I can actually just move from one section to the other section and just have the gimbal set up in a, a normal space. It makes it so much easier to do filming now. Anything to get it to do that? No, it's that way straight out of the box. All I did was set my temperatures and my recipes that I wanted in there for ramp up speeds and the temperatures. That's it. The only thing again that I've ever seen is that it will cool down 20 to 40 degrees in the process of opening the door and shutting the door. But whenever it ramps up, it'll ramp up to maybe 3 to 5 degrees over the temperature in the process of heating back up, but it's not going to be much more than that. I've never seen it go fluctuate more than 5 degrees. Your mom joined? Toby. She's been watching this here and there. Mom fluctuated barely at high temps, but tempering temps, it's horrible. And maybe I'll look at that and see if it's, because I haven't noticed that in there. So maybe I'll run a tempering cycle on one of these knives, just to be able to film it and see if it fluctuates and all of that. So I'll go through and try that out. That way I can actually 100% show y'all what it does. So whenever I do the tempering on it. But of course, for me, most of the time, I just temper them in the oven in the house. And the whole point behind that is because whenever I get to the point to where I'm tempering them, and again, this is specific for me, okay? I am not at my house during the week, like at all. Whenever I am, so from Sunday to Thursday, I leave my house at 4 a.m. and I get back home at like 4 to 5 p.m. And then I work on dinner with my wife. We eat and then hang out for a couple of minutes, and then I go to sleep. That is my Monday through Thursday. So I spend most of my time in my shop Friday, Saturday. So typically by the time I go to start tempering, it's Saturday evening or Friday evening. So I'm not going to leave the hot shot oven on overnight or something like that, or while I'm not in the shop. You want to be in here during that, especially when your shop's all made of wood. So what I typically do, if I'm going to be in the shop, it's not a big deal. I'll do it in the oven here. But most of the time, I'm going to be cooking dinner or eating dinner, and I'll do the tempering in the house oven just because I'm there and I don't have to come back out to the shop. And my house oven doesn't fluctuate like at all. So yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Most of the time, I'll be in the house with them in the oven in the house. And I temper at lower temperatures than normal. So a lot of people temper at 400 degrees for 2 hours times 2. I don't do that. That's just a standard thing that you do if you're just trying to get things tempered. Every still has a recipe. So a lot of times I'll temper between 325 and 350 degrees for a lot of the stuff that I do. I almost never temper at 400 degrees, and that's primarily because most of my blades end at about 62 to 64 Rockwell after tempering for a lot of the stuff that I do. You don't need them to get below 62 degrees or 62 HRC unless you're making like a chopper or a machete or something like that. A lot of the blades that I'm going to do are going to be EDCs or stuff that could be slightly on the harder side because I'll differentially heat treat them with clay. So the spine will be 58 Rockwell and the cutting edge will be 62, stuff like that. All right, Steve. We'll talk to each other several times today. Temper toaster oven. Mom's thrilled. Yeah. So I have a toaster oven inside the other shop. So I keep the toaster oven in here, but really I don't use it very much. Take this off of here for a second. So I, of course, I've got the toaster oven in here, but most of the time I only use the toaster oven for kydex. That is just a personal preference for this. I use the heat gun and this primarily for kydex with the press that's down here. But that's pretty much it. I don't do much in this in the oven for that. Most of what I do is just going to be, nice and simple. By the way, I have got to still clean more out of this shop. I mean, see my masks that I'm working on for Halloween. But like I said, more blades over here. More blades over there. Big TV that I'm working on. I got to replace the LED strip that's inside over there. And yeah. And then the refrigerator with all of the my stickers. If y'all have stickers you want to send me, feel free to send them. They will go on the actual fridge and everything. And then the TV that my kids watch most of the time. But yeah, I keep this here. And I just use it primarily for that. And then all of just this workbench stuff here. This is just, I only do leatherworking in here. So I've got all my leatherwork punches and everything like that for my patterns. And then these are just full of all the leatherwork crap in there. But this is primarily just where I do that. It's fun. Let me actually set myself up. There we go. And then, of course, the other shop with everything. That's one of the quench buckets. But I will have this forge up and running here pretty soon. That's a ribbon burner forge. And then, of course, all the hammers and all that stuff. And then the other workbench. Like I said, I've got a whole bunch of blades in the process. These are a stack of some of my new EDCs. And then, of course, a whole bunch of these. These are two new profiles that I'm going to have just as Blade Show exclusives. These are 120 layer Damascus. These are going to have really cool handle materials. Whoop. I just took myself off of here. Hold on. There we go. Wow. I'm still getting used to that. But yeah. So anyways, yes, all of that stuff. And then, if y'all never saw these are my original profiles. Like, these are like from back in the freaking days for people who've been following my channel for a really long time. Made a lot of sheep's foots, little bitty EDCs when I first started because they were real easy to make with file knives and farrier's rasps and steel and all of that. And then this was one that Xander designed a whole, like, whenever he was like 4. And then this one right here is the Rivolette. That's the heirloom knife that most people follow me because of. And then all of those It's the Karambui. My first Karamis that I ever did. Not that. Several different little profiles. But yeah, this is I've kept those profiles for a really long time, and I have tons of other knives that I've designed and everything like that. Like it's just purely a going through and figuring them out as I go. It's a fun process. You know, a lot of what we do as knife makers is we start like this, but we don't want to forget those. Okay, you wanna remember all your previous knives that you've done. To if you have good ideas, bad ideas, all of those things.